Now, for more on the renegotiation of NAFTA, we can bring in Chris Moore from our International Affairs desk. Good morning, Chris.
Morning.
What's at stake here?
Well, with the world's eyes on Charlottesville, this in a way actually stems back to some other famously controversial comments made by Donald Trump, namely during his election campaign. You remember he made some pretty incendiary comments about Mexican immigrants and, of course, promised to build a wall along the US's southern border. Lurking in the background of all of that is Donald Trump's belief that NAFTA, this trade agreement, landmark agreement signed in 1994 with Mexico and Canada, was hammering the US manufacturing sector. And that's a message, bring jobs back to America, America first. A message which won him a lot of votes in so-called Rust Belt states, particularly where the auto industry had been suffering. In terms of what's at stake, nothing other than the world's biggest free trade zone and the terms on which it operates. Much of that free trade zone, incidentally, centred on the auto industry. And it's one which accounts for a huge sector of the economy of the two junior partners, 80% of Mexican and 75% of Canadian exports.
Now, the U.S. economy is improving. So what is the U.S. president looking to achieve here, and what might come out of these negotiations?
Well, ironically, Donald Trump is actually on the same song sheet as various labour movements in terms of his criticism of NAFTA, namely that it negatively affected workers and gave power to large, mainly US corporations who failed to put it back into the economy. Perhaps in the case of Mexico, even sparking the immigration to which Donald Trump so objects. Where he diverges from those labour movements is that Donald Trump is almost invariably talking pretty uniquely about US workers rather than workers in Mexico and Canada. Now, the administration's objectives, self-stated objectives, are to reduce the trade deficit and improve access to Canadian and Mexican markets for US agriculture, US industry. Critics, of course, say, given his focus on US workers, that's just going to mean another kind of unfair one-sided agreement. We've seen the Canadians lobbying, saying that, yes, there are shortcomings in NAFTA. What we need is a more progressive version of the same thing, one which enshrines environmental and labour rights a little bit better. In terms of what Donald Trump can achieve, like anything else with the man, it's anybody's guess, really. A lot of his other famous campaign promises have run into hard times. Obamacare, for example.
We'll see what happens. Thank you very much. Chris Moore there.